Oh, fantastic. So, well, thank you, Claire. Thank you, ladies. It's just so nice to be able to catch up a little bit with you and have those moments of celebrating each other. And welcome to today's session, where together is really the underlying theme, but actually togetherness and collective action, collective leadership is the theme for the whole year, which is why we talk about inter-resilience, which is distinctly different from individual resilience. Although, of course, if as individuals we're not resilient, then it's a little bit difficult to contribute to a resilient system. But this inter-resilience is how we all come together to create resilient systems, which through the pandemic, we have clearly seen we didn't have resilient systems. Our food systems weren't resilient. And, that was the most basic thing. How do we get our food? Can we have secure supplies and so on? But actually, we're looking at all, even within our own organizations, are our systems resilient? Who made the shift quickly? How did they do? Was the software there? Was the hardware there? Were the people capable of making these transitions? And these are all themes that are going to come out today, is how do we create systems and structures that build these systems within our own organizations, but between us, such that our bigger systems are also resilient. And we've got two yet again amazing women who are going to talk to us from their own expertise. They're both members of the network, and I, for one, am very excited to hear what they have to say, and have taken a slightly different and uniquely theirs angle on some themes that you may already be familiar with. And I believe it's Nelly who's starting. So Nelly, it's over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to spotlight myself as the message is a little bit bigger. Okay. So when you think about hybrid working and the future of work, do you feel excited or do you feel scared? Organizational resilience can be defined as the ability to survive a crisis and thrive in an uncertain time. Obviously, COVID-19 doesn't need any kind of introduction. We all know how uncertain it is, not just for now, what's going to happen with the vaccine, what's going to happen with holidays, what's going to happen with the people, especially when we start looking at how to move forward. I'm the Mary Poppins of business, and I'm really passionate about helping organizations to run better, to empower their people, and to be excited about going to work, especially on a Monday as well. So for the next few minutes, I will share some tips with you on how you can assess your organization and make the changes that you need to become a bit more resilient as well. So when we look at organization resilience in certain areas, one of the questions that a lot of business owners ask themselves, or even if you're managing a team, you're thinking about what is it that I actually need to do to be more resilient? And the second equally important question is, how do I become more resilient? When we look at resiliency and your organization and assessing what you need to do, there are certain areas to bear in mind. The leadership and your culture. We say many people are worried about the impact of working in a connected yet disconnected world will have on their culture. And that's definitely something fair to think about when you start looking at the resiliency and the productivity of your business in the future. Leadership, do we have the right direction, vision, empathy, and innovation in decision-making as well to drive our teams forward? Infrastructure includes anything from how you set up your business, your teams, all the way to the technology that you use to communicate with your clients internally and so much more. Teams and communication. Are we worried about silos, and how can we prevent that from happening? How can we support our people to communicate better and share knowledge, even if they might not work at the same place all the time as they used to do before? Managing change and risk. Of course, when we talk about organizational resiliency, even if it goes way beyond hybrid working, future of work, pandemic, there is still a huge element of change, incremental change that needs to come in your organization. So how do you manage that, especially if you are already busy doing a lot of other things? One thing that underpins any kind of change, and especially when we start looking at long-term goals, is the growth mindset. How can you support your team, your people, your leadership team, so that you can start making the progress? Things like understanding productivity, understanding planning, understanding being accountable as well. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on in this talk as well. So now, going back to the main question of the what and the how, I now know some of the areas that I need to look at when it comes to organization resilience. There's still a lot of details. The most important thing, if you're going to change your organization, is to do a thorough assessment and really understand what you want in the future. There's no point starting running without understanding where you are now and where you want to go in the future. When it comes to the what, obviously with the amount of time that I have, I focus my talk a lot more on the how for two reasons. One, the next talk from Claire, super amazing, super awesome, and that will help you with some aspect of the what. So I'm not going to spoil it too much for you, and Claire will be helping us with that as well. The second aspect is that when it comes to assessing your organization, you want to you could create some surveys and statements that you can use internally to start a discussion with different members of your teams. So rather than doing this now, I've put together a very short example of how I do this assessment, for example, for one area like planning. How do I assess the ability and resiliency of an organization from a planning perspective, so that you can look into that and mimic that for your organization as well. I will share with you the link as soon as I'm done with the talk as well. Now, moving on to the how, and that's the biggest thing. The reason why I chose to focus this topic on the how, apart from the fact that what can be covered later, is the fact that many companies, especially small businesses, tend to be really busy, right? There's always a lot of things to do. Great, I want to be more resilient. I want to make the changes in my business, but I just don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. How do I prioritize with everything that I already have to do for my clients, for my teams, to then add another layer on top to help me become more resilient? And that's really what I wanted to share with you, a few steps that you can really start doing as of today to help you think differently and breathe a little bit more, so that it reduces the sense of overwhelm when we think about planning for resiliency as well. What we are going to look at when it comes to the resiliency is 4 different areas: falling in love with change, upfront planning, the growth mindset, and then setting the goals. But how do they come together? Let's look at falling in love with change and upfront planning. Why do we need that? Change for some people is uncomfortable. And for most of us, especially when we go through a period of high change, a lot of different things are changing at the same time, it really unsettles us at an emotional and also intellectual level as well. So it's not just our personal life that gets affected, it's our professional life. As leaders, it's our role to help our team members to navigate change, so that when we get on the other side of the goal that we have for the resiliency, we have a strong team with us as well. So it's really important to develop some good techniques when it comes to dealing with change, communicating early. One of the biggest issues many businesses have when it comes to managing change, they don't really know what's going to happen because of the lack of upfront planning. So a big aspect of how I help my clients when it comes to this idea of strengthening your organization is to really embrace upfront planning. Even if you don't have all the details, that's fine. A high-level roadmap is much better than not having anything, going day to day, and then realizing that with hindsight, we could have done it better. The second aspect is the growth mindset. You want to lead and develop a growth mindset within your organization. This goes way beyond just management level or senior leadership. If we are going to the world of this hybrid and remote working, people need to become better at self-leadership as well. Moving away from that, even if you are implementing new ideas to become more resilient, changing your pipeline, your products, you need people within your team to have a growth mindset, to come on the journey with you. Organization resiliency is not something that happens in a day. It can take a year, 2 years, 3 years. So So you need to have people that will go with you, prepared to accept the lack of the reduced productivity for a short period of time, depending on what you are working on, because things will get better as well. So how do you create that within your teams? The one that a lot of people struggle with are the goals. Short-term versus long-term goals. We all know that short-term goals get done. It's a lot easier, especially if they are driven by urgency. So I've got a question, or a couple of questions for you. Looking at your teams or your organization, whether you are managing someone, running a company, or just being part of a team, do you understand the kind of projects that are running in your organization? If you look at the full list of projects or initiatives run by your team or your company, can you really identify which one of those projects tackle a short-term goal or an issue, and which one tackle long-term goals and issues? Being able to have that information will really, really help you to be accountable to the goals that you have for your resiliency in the future. I know that a lot of small businesses do not have that. Actually, even large businesses. I worked in a large company that didn't really have a high-level view where they can quickly tell you what they are working on, how is it going, and how it fits to the vision of the organization. So if this applies to you, that's something that you can fix quite quickly, not easily, but quickly. Within the next couple of weeks, I will advise that you get your teams together to create that view so that you can start planning for resiliency, knowing where you are in the moment. Once you have that list, make sure that there are some aspects of your goals in there, some aspect of the work that you are doing, the projects that tackle your resiliency goals. How to do that? Well, things that do not get measured never happen. So you can have, even if it's a quarter, let's say, based on everything that we have to do and our commitments, we can have 10% of our time for a quarter dedicated to working through a goal, maybe for every month or however you want it. But it needs to be there, it needs to be intentional. Now, looking into that, you might still think, great, I know what I want to do, I've assessed my organization, I know my what, I kind of know what project that we're running. We still don't have the time to do that. Remember that, as we know from productivity lessons and Stephen Covey's book, things that are important, not urgent, rarely gets done or gets delayed. So it's really, again, when we look at leadership and growth mindset, how do you teach yourself to be accountable, to work on that? One of the tricks that I use when working towards, especially things that I know are really important but get delayed, is to convince my customer to use an agile approach. I work sometimes in product development, and the idea is that rather than looking at the quarter, reduce the time frame. It could be 6 weeks, so that you have small goals that can be achieved every 6 weeks. If, for example, the first 6 weeks things didn't go well, people were too busy, you have time to adjust and think about how to do better this next 6 weeks. This means that you have more chances of tackling the goal that you've set yourself for making your organization more resilient in that quarter, then just wait until 2-3 days before the quarter, do the review, and it's like, oh my God, no, we forgot about this and we didn't do that. So that's the thing that you need to think about. And again, as I've said before, yes, you have a lot of other things to do. You have a lot of other work to do, but this is also really important for your organization. By breaking down the goals in small chunks, it makes it more manageable for your team to squeeze it in the work. If you're going to do that, make sure that there is one person out there that has the full vision of what needs to be done, so that you can communicate with your team how those small increments, even if there is something as small as, for the next 6 weeks, we are just going to create a plan, or we are going to review our communication strategy. It could be something really small, but every quarter or so, have someone that shows them the value and the impact of the small activity that they've taken. If you don't do that, then people will disconnect. They will see a lot of small tasks, but they won't really see the vision. So if you are going to go down the agile route in terms of implementing the changes that you want, think about how you communicate and motivate people to continue on the journey with you as well. So I hope that the few techniques that I've shared with you when it comes will help you think about organization resiliency and what you need to do to get over even just the hybrids, embrace the hybrid and remote work in a more positive way with less stress and less overwhelmed, knowing where you can start. As I said before, the first starting point is pretty much think about planning and book the time to understand what is that you need to do so that you can plan accordingly as well. Before I go, I'm celebrating my 2nd year anniversary as part of the live shows that I'm doing for my business as well. If you wanted to find out more, especially when it comes to resiliency, linked to hybrid and remote working, Sue Keogh will interview me and we will be talking a little bit about that as well. And as I've mentioned before, if you want to find out how to run an assessment of your company, I will put in the chat a link that you can use as well. I hope that following all the techniques that I've shared with you, you will fall in love with change, upfront planning, and be able to sleep better, knowing that you have what you have the tools to change your organization and become more resilient as well.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you very much. Yeah, I echo Nelly. I hope you got, you picked up a few new tricks from that to build resilience, and of course, also by extension, moving towards sustainability and kind of taking us into those more sustainable systems. So I love the expression falling in love with change. I tend to talk about falling in love with the problem, but it's about loving your problems, loving change, driving and leading that transformation. Thank you, Nelly, for saying that so beautifully.
Thank you.
Claire, can I invite you to take the screen?
Thank you very, very much. A fantastic talk there, Nelly. Thank you. And I'm padding out where Nelly's talked about the infrastructure internally. I'm looking at your business model. So I'm looking at all of the surrounding areas. So I'm going to share my screen. I've got some slides for you. Hopefully that looks clear. You can see my slide. Is that okay? Can everyone see the slide? Lovely. Thanks for the thumbs up. So we're looking here at resilience and what it takes. And I'm taking you on quite a whistle-stop tour this morning. So it is being recorded. So anything that goes a bit too fast, then please replay. And if you want to talk to me about anything in a bit more depth, I will give you some ways to contact me at the end. But as Nelly said, recovering from setbacks, adapting to change, keeping going in the face of adversity. So a business model provides you with the detail so that without a second thought, you know your ideal customer, your value proposition, so what you're offering, the infrastructure needs and the financial viability of your business. Here then your model has the greatest capacity to bend and flex according to current business and personal situations. I think it's important to take those both into account. The business model canvas, I'm terribly sorry about it's not overly clear here, but it was the best image I could bring on. But this is just to give you an idea of what it looks like. And this is giving you confidence in testing what you can do to be more agile and how to combine that short-term and long-term planning and execution. You'll also set goals from this and targets. So with every visit to your model, it is quick, it is really good fun. And I would say make sure you have either someone else in your team or business or an accountability partner. That can be out of the business. But going back over this, once you've completed it, I would say revisit every quarter, assess those goals and targets against results. And as Nelly quite rightly said, results are key in you being able to assess how well you're doing and moving forward on that building of resilience. So for me, being resilient in business means appreciating innovation and disruption. So innovation is make it a habit. It's a frequent reassessment of what your customer needs, brainstorming what they'll need in a few years' time, and then bringing your very, very, very optimistic attitude and determination to never stop looking for opportunities. So serving your customer better through new and creative ways. And a quick example of this is a Bloom and Wild. I don't know how many of you are aware of them, but they're a flower delivery through the letterbox company. And they popped out an email a few years ago now, and it just said, Would you like to opt out of Mother's Day messages? A hugely empathetic share, and it was a social media sensation and a game changer for how we think about our customers. And it elevated their customer experience to a whole new level. It rightly changed how we look at our customers, a person, not an income, with feelings, not just a wallet, and showing we really understand and care about them in every message across all of our product and service delivery. So disruption, this tends to focus on getting your business model absolutely spot on, rather than just nailing your product or service. But getting it right sees you move from the sidelines of a market into the mainstream, initially finding ways to weaken that target market and then really hitting the profitability. It is not a quick fix. And I think as Naily said about any form of change or disruption, it isn't a quick fix. But the rewards have been seen. There's the likes of, if you've come across some Duolingo, how to learn languages online, probably one of the most downloaded apps for language learning. Wikipedia, amazing disruptor, took out 244 years of the British Encyclopedia Britannica being printed. Zoom, I'm sure you can tell where that's come from. And then there's a few ones to watch, such as Cheeky Panda, boil it wrong, Parsley Box, who create meals that can be stored for months and months and months. And all plants, funnily enough, they're selling plants, but it's just giving you a guide here. There really is no guidebook, unfortunately, to disruption. It's absolutely awesome. It pushes the world forward. But for your business to have longevity and compete here, you've got to continue to think differently. Question yourself, see opportunities where others aren't looking, use your team, ideate, brainstorm. Oh, excuse me, I'm just going to have to jump across a slide. So today's business model canvas conversation shows you how to build a quick, simple format for the essential areas of resilience for your business. In full, the model gives you a language with tools to describe, visualize and assess when needed, make changes to stay competitive. But it gives you consistency across all areas, all players, whether it's in-house, outsourced, your social media, your marketing. You can make decisions that fit your plan and vision. So here's how in a few minutes we can health check your business in 4 stages. So firstly, what you offer. This is your promise of value. So how the benefit of your product or service will be delivered, experienced and bought. This is what makes you super attractive, the reason customers should buy and what differentiates you from similar offerings. Oh, excuse me, I've just lost my screen. So reliability, confidence and efficiency, that's my RCE, are what matters to your customer. And this has come out of 2020 research. So Accenture are a research firm, and they've realized that it is back to knowing your customer, understanding your costs and benefits, which realize your profit potential, being conscious of your competitive landscape. So how will you be different or better? And then being succinct. So your value proposition should not exceed 2 or 3 sentences. So for me, I'm a business problem solver, developing the plan and strategies to grow and evolve your business as things change or you do. But making sure people can see it right from the start everywhere, on your website, your social media, your marketing materials, your emails. Don't forget you're really, really, really proud of this. So as an example, MailChimp, their website has their value proposition literally on the front page. Marketing smart for growing your business, and then telling you, put your audience first. So know who you're talking to, say the right things. Turning your data into insights so you become better and more targeted at sales. So resilience here in the value proposition is consistency. So knowing the needs to satisfy or the problems to solve and doing them end to end. So from the start of your customer journey to aftercare and into that newsletter love. So here for you, I would say looking at your value proposition, is it absolutely in line with the vision for your business and the customers that you wish to attract? So moving on to our lovely customers. 80% of businesses think they deliver superior customer service. 8% of customers agree. So with such a huge disconnect between expectation and reality, pushing beyond customer experience has never been more vital. So to build sustainable and loyal relationships, you need to really walk the customer experience you're creating. Because once built, this is going to provide you with a robust existing business base that you can build on. Because if you need to do new business every single month for your income, it's not easy. So a stronger and more profitable repeat business relationships will be. So we'll also look at additional revenue streams later on. But research into your customer is resilience. So frustratingly, most customers don't know that they're looking specifically for you, and you need to help them visualize what it is they're looking for and make that connection for them. So for example, think of your favorite brand or shop. Why is it your favorite? And then have a little look and review against your business customer experience. So for me, I love BAM clothing. They're sustainable, they supply clothing for my hobbies, so I'm hiking, running, comfortable wear. This is normally when I'm laying down after the hiking and running bit. They're recyclable, compostable packaging. I get personal emails from Dave, the owner. It's actually in the head, that's lovely. And I know the face behind the brand, so why he started, his mission and goals. And then the added value. Returns are free, I get discounts and promotions, be the first to. So they really get me, and I absolutely love them. But they made sure what I searched for came up. But even before that, what I was going to search for. So I'm also buying from other names such as Finisterre, Patagonia. They're similar brands, and I search for them. So when I'm doing this, I'm creating analytics for my type of shopper. So I get new and similar suggestions on social media, so you know that what I'm doing and what the actions I'm creating are giving a lot more data out there that's accessible to you. So a quick, we won't go into this too much detail, but I can provide you with a lot more information on this. But every engagement, every single engagement can generate valuable information back to you. So talking to your customers, sending out a survey, phoning them, I mean, keeping it really, really simple. Using Google Analytics for your website. I will always say with analytics, be a little careful. Don't rely on it for every decision because, you know, people are people after all. There's a human factor here. And social media will give you your own scheduling tools, or you can have their own analytics there. And then finding your customer hangouts. So where they ask the questions, who they follow. It could be Facebook groups, Mumsnet, equivalents. It's all real life experience. And then there's a great piece of software, Answer the Public, which has a instant raw search data insight. So they're direct from the minds of your customers. And then use your competitors. So they're doing all this work for you. You can use that information as part of your environment scan. So looking at your market and industry forces, key and economic trends. I don't have the time to go into a deep dive here, but I have put a slide at the end of the talk, which is a complete environment scan and questions that you can use to look at yours. Now we're going to look at financial viability. So is it the time, beg your pardon? So it is taking the time to innovate. So we're back to innovation and disruption here, and where possible, looking at recurring income sources. So a steady revenue is something you can rely on, but keep going back to your customer and your value proposition. So what else is happening in your market? Where can you compete, challenge, change what's being offered? And it's back to fun with that innovation and disruption. So you could offer retainers, maintenance packages, online courses, product bundles. So having a visual, complete cost structure of your business, allowing you to operate your model confidently, maybe looking into accounting software such as Xero, one that will give you a snapshot of your current financial state and the monthly and annual goals you want to achieve. And a really good spreadsheet with all the variables on a smaller business level could work on the short term, but potentially you're going to need an accountant with these as well. So that could be a costly startup issue. But resilience on financial viability is visibly seeing your revenue costs and your income goals with every service or product detailed, so that any change, however small, will show up right across the board. And then, as Nelly had mentioned before, infrastructure. So this is maximising the effectiveness of your processes and operations. This is really critical in making your business more resilient. So you can consider whether your supply chains are over-reliant on a single supplier. Can you spread some of that risk? It could be processes. Who's responsible for what? It may just be you. But here's where you can look back at your supply chain, outsourcing, and then listing the steps that are involved in delivering key activities in your business. So keep it simple. And then do you have the tools for collaboration? So between colleagues, there's Slack, Microsoft Teams, Trello, and ways of saving and improving the value of your customer relationship management tools. So you can store it, track it, optimize your service and delivery. So here, resilience for your infrastructure is a reliable system, clear processes, visible data, strong relationships, partnerships, preferably with mutually beneficial contracts in place, and a what-if plan should any of these fail. So you're ready now. You're ready for growth, production, and delivery. So here, it's being brilliant, be resilient. And I've just got a last slide here, which it's too detailed for you to look at the moment, but it just covers that environment scan. And this will be on the recording, but I'm happy to provide the slides individually, should you wish to have them. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today. I'm just going to see if I can stop sharing my screen. And yeah, thank you very much for your time.